Grace and peace, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Legacy Builder series. I am your host, Ace Randle. Thank you guys for tuning in. I know some of you are thinking like, where is he at? This is not the Legacy Builder studio. Well, I'm actually in the editing room. So this show is going to be a little different tonight. I know some of you all probably have already seen the pre introduction to the show that stated that that this is our mid-season recap. Yep, this is the middle of the season. We started on the first Monday of July. And now we're in mid-August, and the first season actually ends at the end of September. And so the show is going in different directions than I ever expected it to go. It has been doing some great things and bringing on some great people. And I'm really excited to just to be doing this series. It is really empowering and impacting people and doing some things that I never expected. And so I'm really excited about that. And so tonight I want to kind of go back down memory lane a little bit. Some of you guys might have missed it. No worries. If you want to go back and watch the replays of every episode, it is available on our YouTube channel. What you see scrolling down at the bottom, which is our on the Fourg Grafx YouTube channel. So no worries, you can go back and watch it there, or you can actually watch it on any of these Facebook pages that you're watching it on right now. So as we get started, as always, I always come with an inspirational thought. Well, I'm not going to do that today. The reason why I'm not going to do that today is because everything about this show is pretty much an inspirational thought. And instead of me sharing my inspirational thought, I want to kind of go back over history of the beginnings of the Legacy Builder series and just kind of have some of our guests share their inspirational thoughts. Like, for an example, we had a phenomenal husband and wife team that came on the first episode of the show, which is Doctors Richard and Nefertina Serrano. They are the marriage CEOs. They are the owners of Covenant Marriage, Inc., Your Marriage Matters TV show that airs on Dominion TV, which I've actually had the opportunity to actually be on that show. And so I have a couple of clips that I want to show of that episode. No worries, if you missed it, you can go back and watch the previous episodes. They are available again on YouTube and on Facebook. But I want to go and share a little bit of this clip. Just to kind of lead you up to the clip, there was a question that was asked, were you all working together in ministry before you got started, and before you actually got married And how did the dynamic of that work when you guys came together in marriage? Well, interestingly enough, Dr. Nefertina Serrano was doing ministry, but Dr. Richard Serrano was not. And so let's play a little clip of that show so you can kind of get an idea of how their story end up coming together and doing ministry together. Stay tuned.
Purpose came with some failures.
Yeah.
So when my wife started pursuing evangelism and what it was, other things you had, but she had some in school for her master's or bachelor's degree in business. So I started looking at that and I started saying to myself, wow, what am I going to do now? You know, because now she's getting degrees, she's, you know, elevating in church. So I felt left out. And so I want to address that because we feel left out, and then all of a sudden we want to stop going to church. We want to become an absence from society because now we feeling depressed, we feeling down, and that's a trick of the enemy because he wants you to be isolated from people, right? Now we can't do that because that's not what we were created to do, right? We got to continue to build our faith and hope on the word. So when I saw her do that, and I says, wow, so now what sat in my mind was to say, I got to find me. I want to work with me. I want to do me. You ever heard people say that? I want to do me?
Absolutely.
Very, very dangerous because now you're looking for things to fulfill you when you're not really focused on the creator who created you, right? So now you're not asking for God for help. You're going and asking for other people to help. So that was a fault for me because I went left and she continued to go straight on the path. So I found myself at a place where I did some things I shouldn't have done, and I wound up in counseling.
Wow.
So I went to counseling after about the fourth month. I found my purpose.
Wow.
Right there in front of the counselor. I looked at my wife and I said, oh my God, I know what I want to do. I want to bring hope to people, to couples. I want them to find their purpose like I found my purpose. And especially the men, because I don't want them to be lost. Because, you know, I've never believed when a woman makes more than you're left out, because I've always believed in oneness, and what's for her, what she has is mine, and what I have is hers. So that never feared me at all, but I know a lot of men have that fear. So I said, Lord, I want to be in this place to really help people find themselves. You know, to find their purpose in life, to know what they were here and created to do. That's very important.
See, interesting enough, in their story, you hear him talking about how he had a devastating situation that occurred that caused him to go into counseling. And then from there, he got identity, he got purpose. He understood that there was more to his life beyond just living normal. You know, realized that there was some purpose and some greatness that was connected to his life. And his story is amazing to hear how that was the breaking point for him, but it shifted him to a different mindset to you know, look after purpose and to realize that that this is what he wanted to do, to inspire, to empower people, to help shift them and to change their lives. That is an amazing story. Now I have another clip that I want to share as well from the Serranos as well. They have a wealth of great knowledge. Definitely follow them on social media and definitely check out Your Marriage Matters television show on Dominion TV network. But their story is really amazing to see how they came together and how they are building and creating legacy, but also imparting it to the world. So let's take another dive in on the Serranos and take another look at at one of their clips, there was a divine nugget that they gave that's going to inspire and empower you. Take a look.
Being said, in building legacy, right? We're leaving part of who we are here. We're in, and not just here, right? But we're imparting that into others through the life that we live, through the work that we do. And that work starts from your home into your community, into your state and abroad, right? Into your church home, of course. But we must make sure that we are taking care of the essentials at home.
Yes.
Because a lot of times as leaders and as those that are leading both behind the pulpit as well as in the corporate building, in the brick and mortar, all right, we can get so caught up in that we lose out on knowing who our family is right here. Our own. That's right. So if we want to leave legacy, let it be that they took care of home, right?
Yes.
That they were community involved, that they knew their neighbors by name, that they went to the nursing homes, that they fed the hungry, that they knew how to serve first and foremost. Let that be the legacy that you leave. Yes. Because the money, the dollars can buy us things, but just like I said, you can buy those things and you don't even have to worry about losing it. Nature can happen, right? Storms can come and you can lose that in just in a blink of an eye. Here today, gone today. That goes for things and life. So it behooves us not to pour into one another because we're the community that God wants us to serve each other. And that is very, very important. That's when if you want to ask, what my legacy, I want it to be that. I love people. And I love to do and serve people. But I am learning, and I have had to learn over these 30 years because I didn't always do it right. But I'm doing it better in order to get it right. To get it right. That we have to serve our home first before we go and stretch ourselves, wide to everyone else. What is your husband saying about you? What are your children saying about you as parents? What are your parents saying about you as children?
Yes.
Right? Let's leave that legacy. Let's work on that.
Yes.
Legacy.
That's right. That's right. That's good.
In the words of Dr. Richard Serrano, hallelujah. I tell you, that they have such a wealth of wisdom and a wealth of knowledge. If you take in what she said, she's talking about basically in scripture, it talks about charity begins at home and then it spreads abroad. And, we can be so charitable to so many things and so many people that we forget out on our home. We forget out on our family. And it's important for us to build and create legacy within the family unit, within the family dynamic, because that is what a part of that is essentially who you're leaving things to. You're leaving things back for your children's children. You're leaving an impartation for your family, and it affects them first, and it goes to them first. So take that wisdom nugget and a part of building and creating legacy where you are. Remember that you have to build it home. You have to start in the process of home and build that there. What is, as she said, what is your spouse saying about you? What is your parent saying about you? What is your children saying about you? What is your extended family saying about you? Can they say that you're actually doing something of purpose? Can they say that you're actually a go-getter, that you are defying the generational bloodlines and doing something different and impacting the world and impacting them and inspiring them? Can they really speak that about you? And that's something that you definitely want to incorporate in your legacy building, is that you start at home. Charity begins at home and then it spreads abroad. That is your training ground. That is your development ground. That is where you get your first trial and error, if you will, and learn how to do things that's actually going to be effective and actually work. And try it at home. Try it at home first. I actually shared this wisdom to a friend of mine that I was actually getting ready to go into a business venture, and they were excited about it. But I said to them, I said, why don't you try it out first and make sure that it actually works before you go to market? Because your experience doing it first is what's going to be your best seller. It's going to be what's going to empower you in your method of selling, because you actually have proven method by yourself that this works. So again, charity begins at home. Take that wisdom nugget in. Thank you again, doctors Richard and Nefertina Serrano, for coming on the show. You are our first guest on the show, and I appreciate you opening up the door to me to come on your Rise Up series and to come on your Marriage Matters TV show, and to come on and grace us with your wisdom and knowledge there as well. I also have another guest that came on. Great young man. He is the owner and the founder of Self Love Enterprises. He deals in community activism. He has a water and beverage brand. He has an apparel brand, and he's also a children's book author. And his story was so amazing that I was literally kind of getting chills up my spine as I was listening to his story, because everybody does not have the same upbringing. Some people think because we're African Americans, we grew up in, broke, and we grew up on welfare, and we grew up suffering or what have you, but not everybody's story is the same. And so he grew up coming into entrepreneurship at a young age. His first business that he started was opening up a candy house in the community as a kid, because the neighborhood park that they played at, they would have to walk an hour away almost, to walk to the store, get their snacks, go back to the playground, and they only have a short amount of time to be able to play before they got to be at home before the street lights go on. I'm sure everybody know about having to be in a house before the street lights is on. But his strategy was, instead of them walking to the store, I'm going to talk to my mom, and we're going to come together, and we're going to do a candy house, or do a candy store right there in the community. And his story is really interesting in how he grew and how he expanded in his process of building and creating legacy. So let's dive in really quick and listen to a clip of his story.
Well, before I even, kind of like go back into it, I mean, the idea of fear and failure is what prevents people from achieving their greatness. I think with the Inspired by Christ, just going back, like I said, I needed faith. You know what I'm saying? I knew I needed to do something. I knew I didn't want to work for anybody. I knew that I was destined to be greater than just a corporate job. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. Like, my mom was an entrepreneur, my father was an entrepreneur, my brother's an entrepreneur. So it was just something that was just a natural gift. I mean, as a kid, before the age of 13, when I started the candy store, it was more like I just enjoyed. I remember just playing with toys. You know what I'm saying? Playing with toys and saying, I'm going to be this business guy. I'm going to be that. And I just had this great imagination. And I wrote in one of my children's books, if you take away a child's creativity, dreams, and imagination, you have the ability to destroy them at a young age. So
indeed,
as a child, I was able to just tap into like this different dimension and be able to like talk to my older self. And my older self would say, hey, I want you to do this. I want you to do that. And I remember like telling my mom, I'm like, yo, I don't want to sleep in my room because, saying like I'm scared. Like I'm talking to some things that I don't know what it is, but it was actually myself. So,
wow.
So just with this Inspired by Christ, that actually came up in a dream. I was asleep, and then the name Inspired by Christ just kept popping up. Inspired by Christ, Inspired by Christ. And then a whole mission statement just started like running in my head as I was asleep. And then I would wake up, and then I'll go to sleep the next day. And for about a whole month, it'll constantly back to back, back to back. It'll be inspired by Christ until I finally woke up, wrote inspired by Christ down on a piece of paper. And then everything that was in my dream, I was able to write that down, the whole mission statement of what inspired by Christ meant. And once I was able to do that, it went away. And then like 2 weeks later, it popped up in my head again. And then basically God was like, hey, I want you to put these on shirts. So I never knew how to print shirts and nothing. I just went on YouTube and I Googled it. And then I went on Google. Yeah, right. I went on Google and then I hopped on YouTube. And then I found this man who sold a screen printing machine. And I hit him up on Craigslist, and he invited me to his house. Him and his wife, they ran business out of their home. And he was like, hey, look, I really want like, $1,500 for this, but he's like, I'll sell it to you for $350, man. And he's like, if you need help, I'll show you how to do everything that you need to know. Like, just call me. Don't worry about it. I got you. And from there, I just started printing my own shirts. And then I did that for about 1.5 years. And then I just said, hey, I don't want to do it no more. It just got overwhelming, and I just got a bad taste with these different churches. And then I decided to switch over to the GOAT. And it's funny because at the time, the GOAT wasn't as popular as it is today. Muhammad Ali started the greatest of all time movement. He was the guy that kind of pioneered that. And then you had LL Cool J, who came out with the album called GOAT. But the word the GOAT and be the GOAT wasn't popular until 2015. But I used to smoke hookah pretty much every single day. And when I came up with this brand, I would tell a lot of my friends at the hookah bar, like, yo, like, I'm about to come up with this brand called the GOAT. And it's in and I told them in like 2012, like, yo, 2015 is the year to go. And it's gonna pop. I'm telling you, man. I'm like, look, it's like this is the next biggest wave, because I felt it. When I felt it in my spirit, I knew it was right. And it was like my childhood emotion. So I always get a lot of my confirmation from my childhood emotion, because I believe children are the purest thing to God and the closest thing to God.
Wow. I mean, I tell you, his story is phenomenal. It was a couple of things in there that I just really resonated with him with is a couple of things I want to point out that he said is that he said as a child he talked to his future self, and his future self was telling him what to do, and it was not in essence it was more of him getting insight from God, of course, but it was him still having a conversation with himself to say these are some things that he wanted to do, but he was being inspired to go and do things. And then he started to make moves on those things. And he even said that how when he got inspired by something, his childhood nature kind of sparked. And I'll give you an example of that, because I can relate to that when I am given a divine inspiration or given some wisdom from God or given a great idea to start and do something, I am on 10. I am like Giddy's kid, so excited, but I try to suppress it because you don't want to get too excited before it's time. You know how that is when you get too excited before time and then it doesn't manifest, or it doesn't manifest properly. And so I've kind of trained myself to kind of like, okay, we're going to get excited about this after the fact. But he utilized that as his fuel of motivation to start his process. As I mentioned earlier, he did not come from a lot of the estranged things, or a lot of not estranged, but a lot of the past that most African Americans come from. He came from an entrepreneur background. He started his businesses, and so he already had a significant impartation to continue to go after things in entrepreneurship. But is that an excuse for some of us to not go after it? Absolutely not. Just because somebody has a different upbringing than you does not mean that you're not afforded the same opportunities to do what they did. And you have the ability to do the same thing. You have the ability to be, as what my t-shirt says, to be a legacy builder. I am a legacy builder, and you can be one as well. You can do exactly what it is that you put your mind to do. And he did exactly that. Now, another thing that I want to bring out on here with all of my guests that I'm going to be featuring on this episode today for the mid-season recap is I want to bring light to the question that I ask every guest is, and I didn't mention this earlier, but the question I ask every guest is when is your time to leave here? What is the legacy you want to leave behind? I know you all hear me say that often, but it's a premise to my show because we are talking about legacy building. And when the premise of legacy is based on what you have left after you have ascended on. And so, but you have to build legacy first in order to leave legacy. And so I asked this question because, interestingly enough, a lot of people don't think about it. A lot of people. I shared a video before I show his video. I shared a video of Rihanna being interviewed on. I put it on Facebook, and I shared this video about Rihanna being interviewed, and the same question was asked: "What is a legacy that you want to leave behind?" And she said, "You know what? I never thought about it. I've been so focused on, going and doing and recording and doing my shows and all that I never thought about, what legacy I'm trying to leave behind." And it prompted her in that moment to really think. And so with that being said, let's kind of hear a little bit of the legacy that Nico Gray would like to leave behind.
That's a good question. That's a good question. I feel like as long as I do God's work, a legacy don't matter to me. I feel like as long as I do God's work, and I think that's my ultimate legacy, just doing God's work. Because I don't want to work so hard trying to create a legacy for someone that may not appreciate it.
Right.
I watch so many people work so hard and build this beast, and then next thing you know, the people they leave it behind, like I said, don't appreciate it. But as long as I do God's work, then that's the greatest legacy on earth. You know what I'm saying? And also teaching, if I decide to have children, to teach them how to create their own legacy. You know what I'm saying?
Indeed.
I think that's the main thing, is them being able to see in real time that if I can do it, you can do it, and you can be just as great as me, and do way more than me. So my legacy is just, I guess that's it. I think that's it. That I don't even know what else to say, but just do God's work and showing other people that they can create their own legacy, being able to be self-sustainable, not have to rely on, somebody else. Create your own legacy, and that can be whatever. That could just be being a great person, that could be a business,
right?
You know what I'm saying? Whatever you want your legacy to be. And what for me, it's just doing God's work. That's it. Fulfilling my childhood creativity and imagination. Everything that I said I wanted to do as a child, I'm starting to do it. And I don't have any investors. I have a 6-figure company. I never had a celebrity co-sign, and I just did it out of the love, and I grinded, and I stayed true, and I stayed real, and I didn't compromise my morals and my values and my integrity. And when people thought I was just talking, I made it happen, and I turned non-believers into believers.
Wow, he turned non-believers into believers. It's interesting how everybody talks so much about haters and, they hating on me and they, or what have you, but your haters and people that don't understand you and don't can't put language to who you are, and they say that you've changed and you're different. You're not the person that I knew. Those things should be the fuel behind your success. Those things should be the fuel behind your passion to continue to build legacy or to be different or to do something different in the world. That is that part that he said at the end was that he didn't do it with necessarily with the intent. That was not his intention, full intention, but that was a part of it. Those that then say that, oh, you would never be something, you would never be big, you would never be successful, you would never, because you wasn't raised this way, or you didn't come up under this connection, or you wasn't imparted to by this individual, or this pastor didn't lay hands on you, or this. It's interesting that when you're made to be something, it's not predicated upon the impartation of any individual. It's predicated upon what has been placed in you from the foundations of the earth, or your dreams, your goals, your destinies, or the things that you desire to be. And you can do that without people's validation or support of you. And so, as you heard him say, this is just, he's fulfilling some of the things that he desired to do as a child. His childhood fantasies, he's actually going after those things, and he's making them happen. So it does not matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how big that dream or that goal is, or how crazy it looks, or what have you. Somebody's going to believe in it. Somebody's going to support it. Somebody's going to buy it, and they're going to receive what it is that you have. Creating a product or creating a brand is bringing an answer to something that needs an answer. That's what products are. When investors invest into something, is because you're bringing a resolution to a problem. And so you and your gifts and your abilities and your talents have the ability to bring resolutions to problems. And so just because 1 or 10 or 500 or 1,000 people or 1,000,000 people do not get it, I guarantee you there's going to be enough people that's going to see you and what it is that you have to offer. He said that he has a 6-figure company, and he's well on his way to be in 7 figures and above, what have you. But he said he's doing it with integrity. He's doing it not without the backing of celebrities, even though he knows celebrities, and me and him have had in-depth conversations about that, what have you. He knows celebrities. He can have celebrity endorsements. He could be in all the stores and have a co-packer and all that. But he's doing things in a different way. He's doing things in a way that he's impacting the community. He's empowering other minorities, and he is bringing something of quality into areas that probably wouldn't even have it. And so he used his gift and talent and his dream to do that. Thank you again, Nico, for coming on the show. Your story was phenomenal. Again, if you guys want to see the full episode of that show, feel free to go on YouTube or look through our videos here on these lives, and you'll be able to see his story. Another person I want to bring on is a friend of mine. We go way back. We go back to middle school age, and he is doing some great things in entrepreneurship, and to see him grow and advance in ways has been phenomenal. And so his name is Dr. Gary D. Bailey. He's the owner and the managing partner of Integrity Asset Management. Among some other things that he's done over the years as well. I also had the opportunity to bring his executive team on from Integrity Asset Management, but we're going to play some clips of them on another show towards our end of the season recap. But his story is really interesting on how he has progressed. We both, our mothers were very, very good friends. So from to a certain degree, we were kind of raised up to a certain degree together around our high school years, and how, we were kind of progressive thinkers to a degree when we were kind of growing up and was trying to do some things and wanted to, accomplish some things music wise or what have you. And to see his growth and to see where he's been is really amazing. I asked him a question about how did he establish Integrity Asset Management? What was the thing that that caused him a business is doing phenomenally well, and they are very much on the incline, not the decline. And I'm really proud of him and what he's doing. So let's take a look at a clip of his episode and how he started Integrity Asset Management.
I was working for a company here, and you know, the Lord always kept pushing me saying, you are entrepreneur, but I was content with a 90-something thousand a year salary and my bonuses. I became content with that. But he kept trying to push me into an area of being an owner. And what happened was I was with the company and they fired me. And
wow.
I was mad. When I tell you, so when I got to this company, they gave me the worst portfolio known to man. And what happened is I went in there and within 3 months, all of the property started exceeding NOI between 6 and 7%. And they started capitalizing and making money. But then also I was able to control the expenses at about 45%. So what I did with this portfolio is it went from being in the red to in the black. And actually one of the properties that was in my portfolio, it was so bad. When I started, it started excelling and was like 66% exceeding NOI. That property was cash flowing where they got to the point they said, you know what, we're going to sell this property. And so I was there saying, now, wait a minute, we got a problem. I am making these folks millions of dollars. They're using my knowledge, using my skills, using the documents that I create, using the expertise that I have. I can do this on my own. And the Lord's like, I've been telling you to do that anyway, man. And so I was fearful because I was like, well, I really don't have a team. But my team was right there with me. Most of my executive team, we have worked together in some capacity over the past 7-8 years. Wow. For instance, me and Kamisha worked together doing real estate in California, and Jerry and Tamika, me and Jerry worked together here in Atlanta, and Tamika worked together here in Atlanta. And the Lord just started showing me them and how to place them. And each one of us bring a different skill to the table to take the company to the next level. So that's
wow. Isn't that interesting? Thank you again, Dr. Bailey, for coming on to the episode. Did you hear what he said about how before he started his business, he worked for a company and he established this portfolio, and how he thought about, I have gifts and talent that they are using to their benefit and they are making millions off of me, but you're getting a smaller percentage. Isn't that interesting? I can also attest to that as well. As a business owner, when I first started my company, Fourg Grafx, I used to, do projects for clients, and they were like, okay, well, I need you to do this flyer for me so I can take it to my printer. I'm like, okay, fine, this and third, and I'll do it or whatever, and I'll do the flyer. But then I started to realize, I'm like, well, they're taking money out of my pocket because they are actually taking my work to someone else to print it, and I can be making money off of that. Then I started to outsource certain functions of that company to, start. I said, okay, let me find a company that I can do it. And I was making literally pennies on the dollar when I was outsourcing. And I'm like, okay, I'm still not making any money, but then from doing this additional service. But then I started to grow in my mind to think that, you know what, I can actually own machinery. I can actually have a staff run this equipment because I don't know how to do it. So hire that, contract people out, or hire in freelancers, or do whatever. These are other ways that I can do to be able to capitalize on some things. Same thing with Dr. Bailey. He decided to look at the fact that, wait a minute, I am making this company a lot of money and I can be doing the same thing for myself. But here's the thing. When you are the owner, you are majority shareholder of that brand, unless you have other partners involved, and then you have to divvy up the profits of that company, and you have to divide that amongst your partners, as well as your expenses and reinvesting back into the company and things of that sort. So, but when you are sole proprietor, when you are the full owner, for an example, for myself, I own 100% rights to all of my companies, all of them. Now, the interesting part about that, and I'm not going to spend too much time in that, you know, when you do it that way, it does kind of limit your growth because you can only take yourself so far unless you're constantly evolving and growing and learning. But you also have to bring in people that have levels of expertise that you don't have. Now, let me redirect that back to Dr. Gary. He brought in people, as he said, people that he knew that he had already been doing work with, that he knows their work ethic, he knows their longevity, and he decided to say, you know what, guys, let's come together and let's build our own brand. You have expertise in real estate, you have expertise in insurance, you have expertise in the stock market, you have and we all can come together and become an asset management company. And that is interesting how, you know, some of us, we don't want to partner up with people because we want to have 100% rights to it. We want to get all the money. We want to get all of it. When I shared my story about that, that's not something that I'm holding on to. I would love to bring upon a partner that has a level of expertise and that has resources and that has money that can actually help take my brands to the next level and that we can grow together as partners. He decided to do that with his brand, and they're doing very well in what they're doing. So what am I saying in that to you all as inspirational nugget to that? I want you to look at your life. Every business, every job that you work for has a CEO. Every it has an executive management team, and they are making money off of your skill and off of your talent. Now, if you have a skill and talent, now maybe you might not have the resources that they have, but you can start somewhere and build momentum in doing what can be good for you. And instead of working for someone else, you don't have to punch a clock for someone else when you can use them same gift and talents that you have, that you're making millions for them. Do it for yourself. You know, I'm a forward thinker. I am a visionary. So when you tell me, I'll give an example. I have my crown here from my birthday. So you tell me that you want to manufacture crowns. And so this is your first prototype. This is your first model. But then I'm going to think of 100 different ways on how to take this to a whole nother level, because this is the basic, the fundamentals of the vision, but let's take this level. Let's add some jewels to this. Let's make it in different metals. Let's make it bigger. Let's make it smaller. Let's make it adjustable. So with that being said, I'm using my gifts and talents for somebody else's vision, and they're going to make money off of that. And I don't have own stake or rights into that company. I'm going to get my paycheck. I'm going to get my hourly wages. I'm going to get that. But when you are able to take that same creative mind and put it into your talents and put it into your abilities, you can help build momentum in what it is that you're doing. Now, here's another thing that I want to add to that before I bring another clip. You might not be able to quit your job right away. You might not be able to just walk off your job and say, I'm going full-time business right now because I'm going to do what it is that I'm doing with them. Sometimes working for a company is going to give you that trial and error moment. It's going to give you some knowledge, and you to be able to study the market and study how they work. And you can go from being their employee to becoming their competitor. And that you can learn what they did to a certain degree based off of what level of access you have. And you can use that to your advantage. You can use that for your ability. So utilize the gifts and the talents that you have. I say this all the time. Your gifts and talents can bring you millions, but you have to utilize it. But he had a wake-up moment. Dr. Bailey had a wake-up moment to say, you know what? Even though I'm making a decent amount of money here, I'm making $90,000 a year or what have you, I can be making way more than that when I invest in my own brand. Now, I have another clip for him as well that I want to share. Again, the same question, what type of legacy you want to leave behind. I want you to hear what he has to say. And I'm telling you, these people's stories or what type of legacy they want to leave behind is really empowering. Take a look when you leave this earth.
What I want to be known for is my passion for helping people, putting yourself to the side to look out for somebody else. You know, the scripture talks about love thy neighbor as thyself. So my legacy that I want to leave behind is to teach people and show people that you can put yourself to the side and really care for somebody else with no ill will, with no conditions, and take away all the conditions away from building that relationship or building that bond. Because so many times we always place conditions on a relationship. We place conditions on things, but being able to love past those conditions is, I love you just because, I'll do this for you just because. So I want people to understand that just because part, that's the legacy I want to leave behind. Just because I love you, just because God has placed you in my life, I want to be a blessing to you. And then also that, learn everything that you can. You're never too old to learn something new. Pick up a book, read. We got these phones and we keep these things in our hand 24/7. But I'll go through there and I'll read an article, read an ebook or something, and just gain knowledge, because knowledge is wealth. Knowledge is wealth. And one thing they used to say about African Americans, if you want to hide something from them, put it in a book. Well, with Gary Bailey, you put it in a book, you better hope I don't find it.
I'm gonna find it. Indeed, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's what I want to leave behind.
Wow.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's. I tell you, he said something that's interesting that we've probably all heard 1,000 times. If you want to hide something from a Black person, put it in a book. And interestingly enough, we are in a day and age that there is no excuse. And I talk about this many, many, many times, that we have books, we have videos, we have conferences, we got YouTube, Google, Facebook, lives and broadcasts. We have so many. We got our smartphones, we got it at our fingertips, so we don't have any excuses. But he is about empowering people and to be of a help to someone, and that is something that's admirable. That people that are trying to do something great is they're trying to inspire and empower people, and by whatever means that is, what have you. So that is inspiring. So again, thank you, Dr. Bailey, for coming on the show, sharing your story and telling us about the legacy that you're building. Continue to build, continue to expand. And I tell you, great things are on the horizon for you, my friend. Thank you again for coming on to the show and being a part of our first half of season 1 of the Legacy Builder series. Now, I have another person that's very dear to my heart. She is someone that I receive white counsel for, that when I need to get a word of advice from, or to pray, or just to have a listening ear. She is a woman of wealth and wisdom, and her name is Apostle Capitoria Wilson. She is a pastor of Healing Hearts International in Chicago. She also is a life changer with the Life TLC, and she also is the owner of Chicago Healthy Vending, that she has building momentum in having vending machines, healthy vending machines throughout the city of Chicago, and she's doing some great and mighty things in that. And so I applaud her in that. I asked her a question on the show because she is a pastor. And so when we're dealing with Christian believers, some believers feel that it is not wise to receive wisdom from people that are not in the kingdom of God or not in the church. And so they feel like you're gaining wisdom and knowledge from this derived from somebody that's satanically influenced, if you will. They're not spiritually inclined, so how can they give you any wisdom? And to help you should be consulting God, and you should be reading your word. And the word of God is definitely going to give you some basic instructions, as the slogan goes, of living your life daily. However, it's not going to give you full detail on how to build a business. It's not going to give you full detail on how to go to medical school. It's not or complete medical school. So there is a wealth of knowledge that needs to be received from people that are not saved. So I wanted to kind of break that misnomer a little bit and bring her and ask her that question, because that is something that I think that is really interesting in the church, that keeps people limited from advancing mentally and advancing spiritually, because you can be able to gain wisdom from anybody and anything. And so let's take a listen to and take a look at what she had to say about that topic.
Yeah, no, God says wisdom is a principal thing, therefore get wisdom, but in all thy getting, get an understanding. So
Yes.
we have missed that, and he's the giver of wisdom. So when we look around in life, I was talking to my son just the other day and my family, and I was saying that it took an entrepreneur to create the chair that we're sitting in right now. It took an entrepreneur to create the venue that we're utilizing right now. Somebody had to think outside the box. And whether they're Christian or not, the wisdom, I believe, still comes from God. Now, there are people that are excelling in different areas of life, because I believe this too, that your pain creates your passion, which takes you into providence, which leads you into your purpose. So your pain, what most of the time when you look at people who have had pain in their lives, and I like to give reference to like MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. I don't know if she's a Christian or not, but I do know that she lost a daughter. I do know that she lost a child, and it was a very painful experience for her. And because of that painful experience, it catapulted her into a ministry so that other people wouldn't experience that pain. And what we see all around the world is the same thing. We see people in the body of Christ and outside the body of Christ that have experienced pains, that have messed their lives up so much that they have to work through that pain through some kind of alternative to help others to not experience the pain like they did. And yes, I love reading because, they say reading is power, and it is power, but when you get the knowledge is power. When you get the knowledge, you've got to activate it. You've got to do something with it. You can't just sit on the knowledge and think that, and I'm sorry to say, a lot of times in Christendom, we think that it's just supposed to come to us. And it's not. Yes. God said, you got to work. You got to work while it's day. And you talked about seed time and harvest, Prophet. I do actually plant seeds, and I have tilled soil, and I have worked the garden, and I have watched the fruit and the vegetables come forth from that. When you plant a seed, if you turn around and disregard that seed and do nothing, you're not going to get anything from it, because seed needs fertilization. It needs water. It needs tending to. You got to get out the weeds that are trying to strangle the life out of it. And then when it's ready, then sometimes you've got to prune it, depending on what you have, what you're growing. So seed time and harvest, but there is so much in between that. And so there are people in the body of Christ that have the wisdom that we need to grow in God. But there are people outside of the body of Christ that have the wisdom that we need to grow in God. We need to grow in life as well.
Wow. Didn't I tell you she is a woman of wisdom? She has, I tell you, and it just flows so smoothly through her. And because she's a reader, she's a studier, she, and she opens up herself to the knowledge that's out there in the world. And of course, you're going to be wise. You're going to eat the meat and discard the bone. It's just what it is. However, there is so much revelation in things. Do you know that I've gotten revelations through things that people would think that are deemed demonic, but God was speaking to me, or I was getting a revelation out of it, and I was able to gain some knowledge from that. And I was just like, people you get so caught up in being so religious and being so, guarded in their mindsets that they miss out on a wealth of knowledge, of information that's going to help take them to the next level, or even open a door for them or bring connections to them. And so, as she said, wisdom is the principal thing. It is divinely given by God. God is all knowing, and he knows everything. His wisdom is even the foolish things confound the wise. Even in his even in his infinite wisdom, men would deem it foolish because they don't understand the depth of his wisdom and his knowledge. And so, just because it might come from somebody that's an atheist, or might come from somebody that's a Buddhist or another other religion or what have you, does not mean that they don't have wisdom to share. They don't have wisdom to share. So I wanted to share that that clip from that, because I tell you, she has a book club, and she has books that she brings in that gives focused topics on things that's going to help empower and to inspire people to make shift and change and shift the trajectory of their life. And I applaud her for that. And so thank you again. I was just getting ready to say Dr. Capitoria Wilson. I guess that's what's coming down the pipeline for you. But Apostle, thank you so much for coming on. But also as well, I want her to share a little bit about the legacy that she wants to leave behind. And this is really interesting that you want to hear. take a listen.
I want one of the mottos of our company with Legacy Builders is live full, die empty. I want to leave everything that God has ordained for me to leave. I don't want to die with anything left inside of me. And what I believe, and I know that this is part of my life's legacy, I want to see people walk in their purpose. You see, when people walk in purpose, it unlocks the prison doors of those around you, because your purpose ignites my life. My purpose ignites your life. And then when we're all walking in purpose, glory to God, the world is a better place. So what would I like to do? I want to be able to teach people. I want to be able to teach young people how to build wealth, to have their great esteem and believe that they are better than their parents were. I want to be able to see my family and build a foundation for my family's legacy to continue. I want to see people understand that, you see, we've been to 30 of the 50 states, glory to God, and we've seen many of the lakes, but I've seen all of that on TV or on a map. And I want people to be able to understand that this is a big, great world. And because it's a big, great world, that you can have and you can experience whatever you desire to accomplish. So the legacy that I want to leave in this world, in this earth, is first my family, understanding their purpose and walking in it. I want to set my family up so that my family won't have to struggle. Secondly, I want to see God's people walking in purpose and help them to know just how phenomenal they are. Can I say that to you? I hope you look me in my eyes when I say this to you. And I hope that you hear my heart and feel my love when I say this to you. You are an extraordinary person. Every single one of you are extraordinary. And life has a tendency to try to push you down and make you think that you're not as beautiful as you are. But I love how Solomon said it. Solomon said, give me an understanding heart, when God asked him, that I may be able to judge your people, to understand your people, for so great a people they are. Do you know how great you are? Do you know how phenomenal you are? There's nobody, not even a twin in the world like you. Everything about you is extraordinary. However, the world tells you that you're just ordinary and there's nothing special about you. The world tells you if you don't have it in place and you got too much weight here and your head is too big and your face is too flat, the world tells you you're not cute. But I want to tell you, you're beautiful in your own right. And don't let anybody, the legacy that I like to leave, it has to do with that. bringing out the extraordinary people that God bless to be on this earth. Because when you're extraordinary, it makes me extraordinary too. So please know you're beautiful. Everything about you is fantastic. Don't let nobody tell you anything any different.
I tell you, did you feel the goosies? Did you feel the tingling inside? I tell you, she empowers people, and we both share that as a part of our legacy that we want to build. We both share that as a part of our ministry, that we want to empower and to enlighten people. That is our apostolic call. That is our sent one charge, to go and to empower people to understand who they are, and to push them in that, and to develop and to cultivate that. And that is something that she wants to leave behind. I tell you, that is something that is wonderful to be inspired by, that you want to leave a legacy, and that you want to empower people. You want to realize that your life is bigger than just you, and even your life's trajectory that you've been on, and the roller coasters and the ins and outs that you've been through, is to help inspire and to empower other people. But she also said that she wants to do this for her family first. Again, I talked about this earlier with the Serranos. Charity begins at home, and she said the same thing, that she wants to build a legacy that her family will want for nothing, that they will not have to struggle the way that she did, or the way that they grew up struggling, or what have you, that they can leave, and that she can leave something behind for them, or what have you. This is a part of the legacy that she wants to build. Thank you again, Apostle Wilson, for coming on again and sharing your story. You too made the first mid part of the season of Legacy Builders season wonderful. Thank you again. I tell you, and I'm going a little bit over time, and I started a little bit late, but no worries. I want to get these things out because I want you to be inspired. I want you to be enlightened, or what have you. But I also want you to see what this series has brought, what this series has empowered people about. I didn't know what I was starting here. When I started the Purpose, Health, and Wealth Decade Challenge, and this is still a part of that, a part of the Purpose, Health, and Wealth Decade Challenge. When I started that, I had no clue what this was, what was going to come of that. I didn't know that it was going to be started around the pandemic. I didn't know, or what have you, how it was just going to build momentum in what it was doing. And so, as it began to, change, and I was getting phone calls and messages from people that was saying, what you're doing and what you're saying is empowering me. It's enlightening me. People that was stricken with COVID, people that wanted to shut down their churches, people that wanted to close their businesses. They say, what you're doing with the Purpose, Health, and Wealth Decade Challenge, what you're doing with this Legacy Builder series is really encouraging me, because I'm seeing people that's doing the same thing that I'm doing, or trying to do, or aspire to do, is doing it. They're making it work. They're making it happen. And so that's, when I got a divine idea from God to do this series, it was really only going to be 2 or 3 episodes, or maybe about 2 or 3 shows, to interview people that I knew that was building and creating legacy, because I knew people were hearing a lot from me from the Purpose and Health Wealth Decade Challenge, the PHWD Challenge. And so I thought, well, maybe bring on some people that you can hear their story and understand where they come from, so that they can be empowered too, so that everything you're saying is not so repetitive, and they're like, okay, we've heard this from you 1,000 times. I have to keep hearing it again. But when you hear somebody else's testimony, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of the testimony. And those that have come and endured testing to have a testimony, that's how people are able to be overcome, because they hear that you can do it too. And the same with you. If you have not accomplished what it is that you want to accomplish, when you accomplish it, you are able to share your testimony and empower and impact someone else's life. And so with that being said, I have another phenomenal guest that came on as well. This person is a dear brother of mine. We did a pretty much like a tag team match, if you will, with my brother. Prophet Dwayne Britt. He is the CEO and prophet of Legacy Life Discipleship Group. Yep, he also is a person that has a ministry or broadcast that that does this attached to Legacy. He is also the CEO of Empower University, as well as Brick Capital, and he's doing some amazing things. He is based out of Connecticut. We met each other years ago through a ministry that I was affiliated with, that I used to work for, and we are brothers for life. Our birthdays are 4 days apart. I'm older than him, but our birthdays are 4 days apart, and he is a phenomenal a man of God. He is doing some great things in the earth, and so we had a little legacy talk amongst brothers. And what we did was we talked about. I used a clip, and interestingly enough, I end up getting some issues. That's why you guys could hear half a portion of it, because there was music in the movie clip that I used that was from the TV show Greenleaf. They get flagged, so I do apologize for those that was not able to see it, but no worries. That block has been lifted. You can go back and watch it, because I tell you, there was a lot of wealth of wisdom in that show that you don't want to miss out on. And so we were talking about this episode of the show, just kind of lead you up to this clip that I'm going to play for you about this part of this episode, how Bishop Greenleaf was taking his grandson to the garage to show him this box that he had in his garage that he got when he was about 13 or 16 years old, that he wanted this Pontiac GTO. And his father said, well, you pray about it, you're going to get it. But then it came to a point that his father said, you got what you asked for, or whatever, you got what you prayed for, go outside. And he goes outside to the driveway, and there's this box that says Pontiac GTA on the side of it. And it was his car in 1,000 pieces or more. And so he was devastated. He was a little upset. And from the time of being 16 to being 56, he kept this car in the box, in the possession. And so that when I saw that episode, it just stirred something in me. It just gave me this revelation and some things that I was getting from that. And I said, you know what, bro, you got to come on with me and talk about this, because I tell you, it inspired some wisdom. And so let me play a little bit of a nice clip that came from that episode. Stay tuned. The thing that I also thought about that 1,000%. The thing that I thought about that was that as he mentioned that you ask for something, and then you find out that it comes not a symbol, that you actually have to assemble it. And interestingly enough, I'm a shopper to a certain extent. So when I buy things, I want to get the best value for what it is that I purchase. And so, like for example, when I furnished my plate system here in Georgia, or what have you, I saw the difference in the value of buying pre-made furniture that you can buy already ready, and they bring it to your home, versus flat pack furniture. And the difference can be hundreds of dollars different, because it requires you to do some work. Now, the thing that I thought that was interesting was that he asked for this car. His father was like, I'm not going to give you exactly what you asked. I'm going to give you what you asked for, but I'm not going to give it to you exactly in the form that you're looking for, because I'm trying to establish something in you. Like he said, I'm trying to establish in you faith without works is dead. And so I'm going to give you exactly what you asked for, but now you have to do the work. You have to read a manual, and half of us don't want to do that. And I want to kind of dive on this on a natural and a spiritual perspective. On the spiritual side, and I'm going to use me as an example, because this was some false some misnomers, some false teaching that I was taught growing up in church, partially growing up in church, and we think that because we ask what we will, which is what Bishop did to his father, he asked for his GTO, so we ask what we will to be given unto you, but we think that it's just that's it all and all. That we just ask what we want and it's given unto us, and it doesn't require any type of work, any type of effort, any type of faith, outside of asking. And so, I used to believe that because, that I am adopted into faith and I'm joint heirs with the throne of grace, and, because I can ask what I will to be given unto me, and this is not the prophetic words, and this is not what God promised me, and this is not what my life holds, or what have you, that everything is going to come with a pretty bow on it, already ready-made. Dangle the keys and say, here you go, son, there you go. And it's not always going to be that. You will have moments that God will do the miraculous or do things to prove itself to you. But we hang on to that, thinking, oh, I'm waiting on checks to come in the mail. I'm waiting on, somebody to give me a deed to a house. Or I'm waiting on it to come prepackaged and ready. And so, and here's the thing that I also saw about the 1,000-part piece set is that when you build it from scratch, your appreciation for it is at a whole nother level, because you're taking the materials and you understand the interworkings of how this thing operates. So now that you built it from scratch, you ain't got to go to a mechanic to go get it fixed. You already know how it works because you built it from scratch. You know how maybe I might tighten this bolt right, or maybe and you're learning as you go. And so who knows, that might end up being a business for you. That might end up being another trade that you learned because you actually took the time to sit down and learn how to do something that was beyond. If you heard at the end of the video, the young man and the bishop both said, I don't know how to build no car. I know how to hotwire one. I know how to steal one. I know how to, drive one, but I don't know how to build a car. But they decided to build it together. And the other thing that I also saw that was interesting too in that was that at the end, the bishop gave away the thing that he desired. That was his. That was his. Now, if he would have took on the initiative to crack the boards open and start the process of building, he could have been enjoying that car and still ceded it to his grandson. But now you're going to miss out on what you asked for because you wouldn't do the work. You wouldn't do the labor. You wouldn't put the energy into it to build it, to make it happen. And so this is not only just spiritual, this is natural. We all have gifts, we all have talents, and whether you believe in the universe or you believe in God or you have your own spiritual beliefs, we all are given some sort of gift and talent. We all are given some sort of creative ability. And once you start putting your hands to do the thing that you're thinking, you realize that, I didn't even know I had the ability to do this. I didn't know that I have the talents to do some of the things that I actually was put in a position to do it. And so that's what his father was trying to do to him. That's what our heavenly Father is trying to do to us. Yeah. Or whatever your spiritual belief is put things in front of you to challenge you to do something at another level and stop thinking that it's going to just come ready-made, to just actually utilize your gifts and talents that you actually have to make it work for you. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic back to my brother because I know he's sitting over there stirring. So go ahead.
Well, I'm just listening to you and so much stuff coming through me, and I'm like, Lord, please let me read. But the other thing that I was thinking about, coming from the perspective of the young man, he is in a space called transition. He thought his life was over, and the more people pushed, right? He pushed back because he didn't think that he had a chance. And I'm giving a different angle for someone, right, who literally has the ability to teach someone else a lesson about starting their life over again. The 1,000-piece car to me is a revelation of an illustration of someone in a position of authority that has the ability to teach someone the valuable lesson of saying, listen, listen, you might have failed here. And look, this is about a legacy.
Right.
So what I want to show you is you don't even have to worry about what you did. These are my parts. These are my pieces. This is my lot. And what I want to do is I want you to share in this, because here is the potential for you to see that you are not as defenseless as you thought you were. You are not as incompetent as you thought you were. You are not as big of a screw up as you thought you were. If you could take this journey with me, I'm going to journey with you. We're going to put these pieces together, and you're going to see that all along you had the raw material. You had everything it took on the inside of you to rebuild your life over again. And I love this because when you start talking about legacy, we're dealing with sonship. And for those of you who are in a position of sonship, you know, when your fathers are those that are in a position or in leadership over you, that you have a covenant with, that you walk with, when they ask you to do something, I don't care what you've done. I don't care where you've been. I don't care how many times you failed. I don't care if you feel inadequate in the moment. They are inviting you to a journey to rebuild your life and to build something that you will in the future inherit. It ain't even yours yet. It's not even yours. But as a son, you have to understand God provides moments for you to build the thing that you will one day inherit. So don't despise small beginnings. Don't despise the opportunities that people are giving you. You know, we're talking about legacy tonight. So you know, this is about the future. And listen, this was 50 years of a desire that this man had for this car. And he's past his prime of wanting to enjoy things like that. He says, listen, I'm a grandfather now. I'm papa now. You know, I'm not supposed to be riding around in a 64 GTO. But my grandson here, who is going to be a representation of me, he's going to be driving my car around. So that means I continue to live on. Don't be stingy, fathers. Don't be stingy, mothers.
Right.
I don't care if your son is wayward. I don't care that he's messed up a million times. I don't care what his plight is. Invite him to share in building the project, building the vision, building momentum, so that not only you will give him the ability or her the ability to build her life over, but build themselves strong enough to stand up under the pressure of carrying on a legacy that doesn't have a chance without them.
Yeah. Apologize, you guys, I got muted there. There was supposed to have been another guest that's supposed to came on that day. Unfortunately, they had some issues going on with family and they was not able to come on. And so God always has a ram in a thicket. He always has a plan, which is still his divine plan, even though we think that first plan was it. But the thing that came is actually his will, is actually his plan. Interestingly enough, ponder on that. Selah. At any rate, so I want to bring up another clip really quick from that episode. I tell you, there was a lot of great wisdom and a lot of great nuggets that came out of that episode. So stay tuned. Let's go ahead and hear another clip from that episode with Prophet Dwayne Britt. I'm sorry, you guys, I got kicked off there. But nevertheless, every time when there is something great that's going on, there's always going to be something in opposition against it. But nevertheless, we still here and we're still going to keep it moving and we still going to keep it rolling. And so let me go ahead and bring up that video. Again, I tell you that the wealth of knowledge that was coming out of that was really, really phenomenal. And so let's go ahead and dive in on another clip of that episode. And here's an interesting thing about that. It's a 1964 GTO. So that means it has absolutely no miles on it. It's going to be in pristine condition because it's been sitting in the box, untouched, undeveloped, put together. I'm telling you. And so even the thing that sat on, now not on top of that, if he decides that he doesn't want to drive it, the value in it has increased because of the fact that it has not been touched. So we don't understand. See, there's so much revelation and depth to things. We look at things on, I talked about this probably about a year ago about why is this happening to me? And I asked the Lord this when I lost my dog 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. And I asked the Lord, why is this happening? And then he said, okay, now take the why is this happening and just use the word why. And then he said, now take the WH off of the word why and just give the letter Y because it sounds the same. The letter and the word is exactly the same. Then he said, look at the shape of the Y because it's shaped like this. And he said, split it right on the middle. And he said, on the left side of the Y, I want you to put, why did this happen? And on the right side of the Y, I want you to put, why did this happen? On the left side of the Y is going to be the negative, your perspective of why this happened. Why is this happening? Why am I getting this 1,000-part car? Why am I suffering this? Why am I going through this? Why this, that, and the third? And then on the right side of the Y is why I allowed it to happen. Yeah. Why I caused it to happen. And so we get so caught up on the negative side of the why that just clogs our focus. And the Lord told me, he said, now draw dots and dashes down the left and the right side of the Y coming down to the center. And he said, regardless if it's on the positive side, the left side of the Y, which is your negative perspective, or on the right side of the Y, which is my perspective, it's still going to lead you forward to your purpose. Yeah. So why would you be caught up on the negative side of the Y when you can get a better understanding of why things happen based on God's will? God is doing something. He's making you. He's developing you. He's cultivating you. He's trying to birth something new out of you that you got so caught up on the negative reasons why things happen. Yeah. And so just like this bishop, he got so caught up on the negative that he left what he had in his possession under a tarp. He closed it, put it in a room somewhere and locked it up when you have possession of what you asked for. And some of us do the same thing. God will give us exactly what we asked for. But because it's not in the way we want it, it's not packaged the way we do, we'll throw it in the back of the closet. We'll throw a tarp on it. We'll throw that vision, that dream in the back of the closet. We will let the dust pile up on it. And even sometimes even let it disintegrate over time because you would not allow yourself to change your thought process to do something different, to say, you know what, I'm going to cultivate this thing and I'm going to go ahead and try something new. I'm going to go ahead and do some research instead of thinking that it needs to be there. I'm going to stop being lazy and procrastinating. I'm actually going to get up and put energy into it. Now, maybe, who knows? You know, maybe that dream or vision might take you 10 years to get to the end of it, to learn, go through the learning process. But the fulfillment of it at the end of it is so much greater. It's like having a baby. When you have a baby, you go through different trimesters. You go through the pains and the aches and the morning sicknesses and the vomiting and all this other kind of stuff. And even the contractions, the push and to birth that thing out, almost near-death experience on the table to give birth. But when that baby comes out, all of that, you don't even think about it. You are so engulfed into this baby that the love and the compassion that you have for the thing that you birthed out, you don't even think about the labor pains until the kid grows up, and then they get on your nerve, and then you be like, you had me in labor for 52 hours and got stretch marks on my belly. Then that's when you revert back to what happened. But I'm telling you, in the moment of manifestation, you are not thinking about the pain, when the suffering that you endured, or the work or the labor that you had to do to get to the finished result. And so don't get so caught up in, I got to do all this work. I got to do all this planning. I got to do all this research. I got to go back to school. I got to study. I got to look at this YouTube video. I got to go to this conference. I got to go to this seminar. I got to get a mentor. I got to get a father. I got to get something. But here's the thing, though. What is going to happen on the other side of this? What is the success story? What is the legacy, which is what we're talking about, that you're building on the other side of this? The mantles that's going to be passed down, the impartation that's going to be received through this process. So we get so caught up in the 1,000-piece set instead of the finished product.
Yes.
Focus on the finished product. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead. I preached enough.
Now look, I want to answer a question for some of you guys, because a lot of you, you see what's in front of you. You see the box with the 1,000 pieces. As a matter of fact, it got the picture on the box of what it's going to look like when it's finished. You would think that's enough to motivate you, but the depression that you're dealing with, the oppression that you're dealing with, the low self-esteem that you're dealing with, the low self-confidence that you're dealing with, word curses that have put imprints in your mind that says that you are incapable of making something out of 1,000 pieces. Let me tell you what your problem is. You've been down too long. You've been in the same place too long. You've been in there long enough to convince yourself that there is no possibility outside of the situation that you're in. But when I was watching this clip, you can see the light of optimism turn on in him. You can see him like,
yes.
What? Listen, you need to look up. You need to get up. You need to see the glass half full than looking at it half empty. I saw a picture of something where a man was chiseling through a wall, and he's chiseling, and it was the man that was like an inch thick from actually breaking through to the water versus the man that was halfway done, and he kept going. It's the man that was right on the brink of his breakthrough that gave up. You want to know why? Because he was in that tunnel too long. He got fatigued. A lot of you guys, ain't nothing wrong with you. You just fatigued. You just been in warfare too long. There's nothing wrong with you. Somebody's foot just been on your neck too long. You've been under control too long. You've been under manipulation too long. You've just been in the position that you are in too long. And you need a father to come and show you the possibility beyond where you are, so that you can see hope, that there is actually a possibility that I can live in a different reality. You've just been down too long. There's nothing wrong with you. Everything that God gave you, it still works. It's still alive.
It still works.
It's just dormant. It's just inactive. You haven't put no spark to it. You have not ignited. Nobody. You didn't have a father to come along and light your fire again and turn you on again and re-inspire. You've been without inspiration too long. You've been around. You haven't had the right voice in your life. That's the problem. You've just been where you are too long. It's time to get up.
Oh my God. I tell you, man. Oh my God. I felt like I'm reliving that episode all over again. I tell you, and the things that was being shared off of that episode with myself and Prophet Dwayne Britt. I tell you, the inspiring and the empowerment of that, about how I was talking about how he held this thing in a box for so long that now that he didn't, he felt like, he was giving it over to his grandson. But if his grandson actually really studied cars, he'll realize that because it is brand new, untouched, undeveloped, brand new, pristine 1956 Pontiac GTO, that it actually holds more value now. It holds more value because it's never seen the road. There is no nothing on the tires, no rust, no nothing, unless something got inside the box and contaminated it. That's a thought even within itself. So sometimes holding on to something and waiting later will bring value to it. But sometimes holding something on to something that you should be utilizing or should have used in its time will begin to tarnish over time. I'll give you an example. Have you ever seen documentaries about how when they go to Egypt and they find a tomb and they find the sarcophagus, and so they're trying to find out who this person is, and they have this people that are just trying to find out more research and get more details. And when they open the sarcophagus, because it's been sealed shut for hundreds of years, the body might have been in almost normal looking conditions or what have you. It might be looking like it's freshly decomposing, but the soon that the air hits it, it begins to disintegrate. Because there was no air in it. There was no air, and and water has elements in it that will cause things to tarnish over time. So I'll give you an example. So say you have this pristine thing in this box, and you don't utilize it in the timing that you were supposed to utilize it. And then it just, when you open the box, it disintegrates. See, this is why it's important to move in timings and seasons. It's important to understand the value in what you have in your possession. It's important to know who you are and understand the talents and the gifts and the things that you have, because you can miss your opportunity. You can miss your moment because you decided to throw a tarp on the outside of it. But then also, too, my brother said that maybe you haven't had anybody to come and ignite your fire. You just got so comfortable and doing what the thing that you've been doing. There's nothing wrong with you. That you actually are gifted. You actually have the goods. You actually have the resources. When you actually put your foot to foot to action, when you put pen to paper, when you get motivated to move on the thing that you want to move on, and you find out that you already got the tools on the inside of you. You already got the knowledge until you actually go after it. And that's something that I learned about myself, that whenever I put my hands to something to do, whether it's for myself or someone else or what have you, it eventually will build momentum. And I didn't realize that I already had the gifts to make it happen. So I'm telling you, if you missed that episode, I tell you, go back and watch it. It's going to inspire you. It's going to empower you, spiritual or not. There is great principles and wisdom that you can apply to your life based upon that clip of that episode from Greenleaf about this bishop having this car in his possession. And because his father gave him what he asked for, but it wasn't in the way that he wanted it, he threw a top on it. And it became like a luggage. I didn't share this part in the episode. It became like a bag lady, like Erykah Badu. It became a luggage of something that is like that you're traveling from place to place. And as you grow up, when you went to college, you left it in your garage at your parents' house. Then when you moved into your first home, it was sitting in your garage. And when you moved into your next home, you moved into the other garage, and you moved into this, you moved and moved and moved. And now it's in this nice brand new house. This mansion, and it's still sitting in the box. And the funny thing that I thought, and I said this about the show, and I'm going to move on from this point, is if this man had money, that he could have paid somebody to build it for him. Could have paid someone. Could have paid a mechanic to build this for him. But it was something that happened that tarnished his thoughts, or that disrupted him mentally on what was given to him was not in the way that he wanted it. I want you to ponder on that a little bit. That he had everything that he had. He could have had 15,000 GTOs. He could have had every make and model and vintage ones and whatever. He had it because he had the money to. But there was something about it. There was a connection to his father giving him something in a way that he didn't want it, that he undervalued it. And he threw it in the shed, and he threw it in the garage, and he threw it in the back of the house, and he threw a tarp over it. Wherever it was in life, he just threw a tarp over it and left it. That's something to think about right there. At any rate, we'll talk about that on another subject. Come back, go and watch that. I tell you, it's going to empower you. It's going to inspire you. It's going to encourage you. Last person I want to bring on before we end the broadcast tonight is last two things I want to bring on tonight is she is a woman of wealth of finances and knowledge. She has been a millionaire a few times over. And she graced me with the opportunity to come on the show to share her story and her history. And that is Madam CEO herself, Bishop Tier Wilson McQuarrie. She's no longer pastoring, but she is an entrepreneur, CEO of Madam CEO Inc., which consists of business coaching for small business development, product. She also deals in product creation, and then she also has a fantastic line, ladies. If you're looking for handbags and things of that sort, well, she actually makes her own. She actually manufactures her own, and it's called the Crown Jewels Collection. Want to check that out. As you see, she is, from the picture itself, she is very much a fashionista. She is very much in tune with what's going on in the world, in money and spiritually. And she is a joy to learn a wealth of knowledge from. I brought her on because she has a wealth of knowledge, again, that is going to inspire and uplift and to encourage and to empower you to build and create legacy. So I'm going to kind of pull up one of our first clips here and hear a little bit more about her story. Stay tuned.
Well, I never did. And let me tell you why. My parents were the ones that when there was a little church in the neighborhood, honestly, there was a little church in the neighborhood. It's called Union Grove Baptist Church on 8932 Quincy Avenue, right across from Caribou Theater. And one of the only Black theaters in America, the first Black theaters in America. And they needed a pastor. My parents were on the board of the church, and they financed the building. So my parents always told me, you solution, and your money, your resources, your hard work, it blends with the will of God. God gives you the managerial responsibility to make sure that his word does not stop, that the community is always, their needs are always met, and that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So for me, it was not a divided thing. As I became a pastor all those years, being a part of our three focuses was financial stability, and we don't mean just being able to get by. No, we're talking about the seven streams. We're talking about 7 mountains. We talked about all those things. We talked about building business from day one in our business and in our church. And it was never a thing where it was a silence. There was never a thing where we're gonna be broke. And see, I went to private school. My private school was a Catholic school, and so they take a vow of poverty. When they mentioned that, I was like, oh no. That's not the will of God.
Indeed.
You made up, but that's not what the Bible says. And so literally, I would challenge the teachers and the nuns and the brothers at the church all the time. I got put out of Catholic church because of it, because of my mouth.
Wow.
Because I knew what the word of God says. And although that might be fine what you want to do, but don't convince me that's what I need to do. Me being broke, me being poor, it says the poor you will have with you always, but it did not tell me that I was going to be one of those poor. And I understand poor is not the money, it's the mentality, because whatever you believe is what you pursue. That's what you do. And so for me, that was not an option. My parents always taught me, you need land, You need to be able to finance the church. You need to be able to be a part of the scholarship. You need to be a debutante. You need to be this. And this is again in a time when I was born in the 60s. It was still rough. It was still, women can't vote. Black people don't matter. White, white this and color this. But my parents, they made our responsibility within our community. You be the best of your community. You be the anchor, one of the anchors that God uses to make sure that when people have a problem, they know they can come to you and you will teach them how no longer to have that problem and help be the solution in various ways. And so for me, I never saw that. So when my husband and I got married and we decided, we were going to start a ministry, it was never a thing of you can't have, let me tell you this. I had one young lady, God rest her soul, who I really, really loved very, very dearly, looked up to an older woman at the time. And she told me, she says, my mother, she says, when you go to school, I went to seminary. She says, when you go to school, you can't take that old car. She says, what has God been telling you? I said, he's been showing me this Mercedes. I ain't never had a Mercedes in my life. And before I knew it, my mother went and bought me one off the showroom floor. She said, when you go and represent the kingdom of God, don't go representing looking any old kind of way. Go representing him to the people that he sends you to the best of your ability. And so God used her to get me the car. I didn't ask her. She gave it to me.
Wow.
All right. And when I got the car, I remember taking it to the church and because she made me get rid of my old car. She says, where you going? You got to look where you're going. Look like where you're going. And so when I went to church that Sunday, I never forget the lady, she said to me, she said, you're not going to be able to be flashy and you're not going to be able to have to sit up there and, speak all that, the level of, this is what she said, the level of English that you speak and all those flashy clothes, you're going to have to get rid of that car. And it burdened me that in order for me to be accepted, I've got to low grade myself. No, my job is to go into a place and set a different standard and show you how to get to that standard so that we can all do well.
Yes.
But that's not what I saw from other people.
Yes.
God, I saw it from my parents. And my parents is like, you want a pony? You going to go buy one. You want to go buy one? You better start a business because the company ain't going to make it.
Right.
I mean, the company you work for or that you want to work for ain't going to pay you enough. So there's certain things they put in front of me. You want this?
Right.
You got to work for it. You got to create an income for that.
Wow, I tell you, do you hear what she's saying, you guys? I forgot to mention the question that I asked her was about the misnomer in church about how believers feel that in order for you to make it to heaven, that you get your blessings in heaven, and you got to suffer in order to reign with Christ, and it's harder for a rich man to jump through an eye of a needle than it is for them to inherit the kingdom of God, and we kind of talked about that because that is the misnomer that especially those in the Black church believe that in order for you to get your riches and glory, you have to suffer here on the earth. When he's given us dominion, he's given us power, he's given us the power to get wealth. There's so many things that counteract poverty. He called us to the poor. So if he's called us to the poor and you poor, then how can you be of a help to them? If he's called you to the sick and you're sick, how can you help the sick? It's almost kind of like you're contradicting yourself. That you're living something that you're not able to demonstrate. And so I asked her that question because she came from an entrepreneur background. As you heard, her mother was telling her, "You want a pony? Start a business and buy the pony." You're not going to be able to do what it is that you want to do based off of working a job. Start that business. Do what it is that's going to give you the income that's going to support what it is that you're asking for. And so she was pushing that in her from the beginning. And I told her in the show, and go back and watch it, you guys. I know we had a little bit of some hiccups in there or what have you, and no worries. I'm going to edit that show down so that it is a lot more polished and professional. But nevertheless, it is still available for view. And she was talking about how her mother would kind of throw little shade things to kind of lure her into her doing her purpose and living what it is that she's supposed to live and being who she's supposed to be. And unbeknownst to her, that was something that has stuck with her. And so when she goes to Catholic school, she goes into arenas of people that are talking a different mindset that she was not born into. She became to be a person of opposition against the lie, if you will. And she began to share how she applied these principles, and they got her kicked out of Catholic school because what they were talking about taking a vow of poverty. She was like, the devil is a liar. I know that I serve a God that's rich, so why would he make me poor? If I serve a God that owns cattle's on 1,000 hill, then why would he not do the same thing for me? If I'm joint heirs to the throne of grace with Christ, and I am royalty in nature because I was born in him, then how am I broke? How am I sick? How am I busted and disgusted? How am I? And that's why the world laughs at the church, because we have gotten so caught up in this misnomer, because the world is living how the kingdom of God should be. But I'm going to digress out of that because that's a preach right there, and I don't want to go into that. But I tell you, go back and watch that live. I thank Madam CEO herself to come on and share. She also had some final thoughts that I want to share with you all as well, that she had on the show. That is a wealth of knowledge. I want you to take this in. I want you to, let apply it to your life, and just let that be as a wealth of knowledge to you and you building legacy. Stay tuned.
Absolutely. The last thing I want to say to you is, regardless of what you think that is impossible, regardless of what people say it's never been done, regardless of what you don't have, if there is something that's burning in your heart, in your spirit, in your shanana, as I like to call it, to do, make sure you do it with everything you can. There's going to be times where you're going to have to do it alone. I promise you that you will be sent the assistance that you need. Stay faithful to the assignment. Remember that you have oversight, but it is not yours. Remember, you are here to manage, to cultivate, to protect, and multiply it. And remember that God ultimately is in control over every vision, every idea. Don't try to do it absent of him. And then the other thing I will say is this: do not ever allow yourself to be average. If your surroundings is causing you to be average, change your surroundings. If your conversation, which can happen, causes you to be average, learn a different language. Learn the language of wealth. Learn the language of faith, not religion, faith. And if there's something that you don't know to do, remember ultimately that the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit, is there to teach us. God's favor will favor you and will come upon you. And understand, again, don't take credit for anything. Give God credit for everything. It's not about what people think. Even if you don't speak in tongues, that does not matter. I go before if I go before, kings or princes or any of the royal family or anything like that in different countries, I may not pull out a scripture, but I know how to reword it so that people can know, wait a minute, how did you know that? Or listen to the voice of God, and he will lead you and guide you to all truth. And inside of truth is legacy. Inside of truth is sustenance. Inside of truth is success. And inside of truth is God's purpose for your life.
I tell you that the wisdom that comes from her is amazing. The thing that I want to pull out from that I want you to be inspired by is about living a quote unquote, lack of a better word, a basic life, or being mediocre, or being just normal. If that's the life that you want to live, then you're in the wrong room. You're in the wrong mindset. Begin to connect yourself to further advanced people. Begin to connect yourself to people that are doing some things in the world that you aspire to do, and that you might not have the ability to, that you did not have the ability to do. I tell you, when you get yourself in a room of people that is talking a different language, it inspires you. If you find yourself, researching some things, and you find your language changing, you're finding yourself having conversations with people that you never thought that you would have. And so, maybe if you are in a room of people that still living, a basic mediocre life, then you need to find yourself in another room. let me add to that another thing that that I heard from T.D. Jakes from his book Soar. He said, if I believe it's from the book Soar. He said, if you're in a room of people and they are sucking off the nectar of your wisdom, you are in the wrong room. You need to move into a room where you can connect to people that not only can they receive from you, but you can receive from them. And it's a push and a pull. It's a give and a take. It's a pour and a receive. And if you're only receiving, or if you're only pouring out and you're empty, completely empty, and you're not connected to people that can pour back into you, that's a wrong connection, or that's a limited connection. That doesn't mean that everybody you're connected to that have the ability to pour into you, but you need to make sure that you have a connection of people or a circle of people that can pour back into you after you pour it out. And then also, if you are a person that's just only receiving and receiving and receiving, that is a selfish mentality that you don't have the gift to pour. And so it's like you can't be trusted with giving anything else because you retain everything. You hold on to everything. And so you want to be able to give and receive. Give and receive. And I'm not talking about tithes and offering. I'm talking about in wisdom. I'm talking about in relationships. I'm talking about in friendships and business relationships. All of this is the same principles apply. And so thank you again, Madam CEO, for coming on. I want to share one last clip of hers about the legacy that she wants to leave. Stay tuned. In the atmosphere of that is amazing. So one thing I do want to ask you before we get out of here, because I know we've been on about 1 hour and 2 minutes. I do want to ask you this for you to take your rest. What is the legacy? What is the legacy that you are building that you want to remain after you have gone?
I want people to say when I'm gone, she taught me, or she left for us the message not only of what to do, but how to do it. And because she did it, I've been able to achieve more than I've ever thought that I could. She taught me how to get beyond my own borders, my own fears, my own inhibitions. And she taught me that being average is never an option, that God has placed me here to have managerial oversight over every visual idea that he has downloaded in me. And that no, it cannot happen is not my conversation. It has to happen. And as long as I understand that it's never mine, that God ultimately is the CEO over everything that I do, there's no way that I can fail. I don't fail. I only leave legacy. And that's my responsibility. And so I hope that that's what people see. I hope that's what people say. I hope that's what people understand. And we have to build. We have to secure the bag. We have to secure our families. And we've got to leave something on the earth. And I hope that's what they say about me, that causes this earth to be a whole lot better than it was before March 2nd, 1968.
I tell you, she's doing just that, you guys. She's doing that. She's leaving an imprint. She's reproducing herself, and she's doing great things. Again, thank you again, Madam CEO, for coming on to the series and sharing and empowering people. Continue to build and create legacy. Continue to inspire. Continue to give people resources to be their best them, and not to live a simple life or a mediocre life, but they can actually live in abundance, because we can see it through you. We can see it through your example. So thank you again for coming on. Madam CEO, you have helped to make mid-season an amazing one. Thank you again. Before we get out of here, in the episode tonight, as you see, legacy building right now in this juncture of my life has become a very important one to me. It is something that is pushing me to do some things I've never done before, to live as fearless as possible, to build some relationships and connections with some new people that I never expected before. But it's so funny to the point that legacy is so relevant to me that even God had me to name my daughter Legacy. Her name is Legacy. God had me to name her Legacy. And you know, with that being said, I in this moment I got a revelation. In this moment, I got a revelation that the reason why he wanted me to name my dog Legacy is because he wanted me to have a constant reminder about what it is that I'm trying to do, what it is that you're trying to establish. So every time I call her name, I'm a reminder, you know, that you're building legacy. You can't sleep around. You can't, you know, meaning wasting time. Not that, but laying around and lounging around and not investing time and not building something and not developing what it is that you're trying to do, you know, and continue to build, you know, in that regard, you know, and to go after your dreams and your goals and your destiny, continue to inspire, to empower people's lives, because I realize that my life is more than about me. My life is more than about me. It's more because when I do what I'm supposed to do, when I'm doing what God required for me to do, what I do when he is destined for me to do from the foundations of the earth, the promises that he has for me is yes and amen, to bring me to an expected end, then I know that I'm being a light and a beacon for somebody else. I know that I'm being a message of hope for somebody else. I'm able to inspire and to empower someone else to go to school, to live their life, to go after their aspirations, to go to the most parts of the world, to do their ministry, to do their business, to whatever it is that you want to do that's positive, whatever that you want to do that's impactful, that's just going to inspire and to uplift, not destroy, not hurt, not devastate lives, but something that is of positive nature that's going to empower people's lives. That within itself, you know, me doing what I do, I don't need, you know, any accolades. I don't need any, you know, messages back. As long as I know that if it's 2 people on this live that's continue to watch, if I go and see that there was 10 people that came on and watched, that's satisfactory enough for me, because I know that whatever that I shared or whatever that my guest shared enlightened and empowered somebody's life, and I'm happy to do that. And so that's a part, one of the parts of the legacies that I'm trying to leave, and one of the things that I'm trying to impact into people's lives, to let them know that there's nothing too hard. You know why I wear this boss hat all the time? Because that's what I know that I am. That's not what I know that I do. That's what I know that I function as. My mindset is a boss. I am a boss in business. I'm a boss in what it is that I do, because I have a king mindset. And then if I want to add to it, I'll add my crown on top of it, because I have a king mindset. If you notice on my birthday, I said the heart and the mind of a king. And I talked about that being the heart and the mind of a king is unsearchable. As high as the heights of to heaven, is as deep as the depth of earth, is the heart and the mind of a king unsearchable. It's unsearchable because it's not lending itself to be understood. And so when I do things, a lot of people are like, why is he doing that? Why has he got a boss hat on a TV show? Because I'm setting a standard to know that that's what I'm developing myself to be. I'm a legacy builder on my shirt, because that is exactly what I'm trying to build. Because this is a part of what I am trying to do. This is a part of what I'm trying to accomplish in life, and I want to empower you to do the same. But thank you guys again for coming on to, this is an extended show than normal, but I want to come on and do a mid-season recap, because I tell you, these episodes have been amazing. If you have missed any of them, go back and watch them on our Facebook pages. Go on our YouTube channel. You can be able to watch them there. If you don't know the name of the YouTube channel, I will put it up for you right here on the screen. You can go ahead and watch that on our YouTube channel, on the Fourg Grafx YouTube channel. And every episode is there. You can be able to watch that. And if you can't find it there, definitely go to any of the Facebook pages that you're watching this on right now. All of the episodes are still active. They are still available to you. So again, thank you guys for coming on again, for helping making Legacy Builders series what it is. And I hope in any way that it inspired you to continue to build legacy. Thank you guys, and you have a great rest of your night.
Thank you for viewing. the Legacy Builders series. Tune in July through August, Mondays and/or Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with special guest panelists to appear. Want to be a guest or a sponsor? Send your request via email to legacybuilderstv@gmail.com. Till next time, go forth and build legacy.